welcome back to Bheem. This next session is called Amplifying Voices, Leveraging New Age Communication Channels for Social Impact. This session has been co-created with Breakthrough and On Purpose. It is my greatest pleasure to introduce speakers for this session. May I request them to please come on stage. Devanshi Vaid, co-founder and director IDR. Saswati Chatterjee, manager Digital Engagement Breakthrough Trust. Mehak Mirza Prabhu, corporate storytelling coach. Shalini Umachandran, editor Mint Lounge. And Girish Balachandran, founder and managing director On Purpose, who's moderating this session.
आदरणीय भैया प्रणाम। आशा करती हूँ आप सुखद और प्रसन्न होंगे। यहाँ गांव में सब ठीक है, बस इस बार गर्मी कुछ ज़्यादा ही तेज है, पर अच्छा है, पापड़ और मिर्ची सुखाने में आसानी हो जाती है। कल सुबह जब आपका फ़ोन आया था, मैं छत पर थी, मिर्ची सुखा रही थी। फ़ोन बजते ही पता चला बाहर की कॉल है। मैंने दौड़ लगाई, हाथ धोकर नीचे पहुंची, पर तब तक कॉल पूरी हो गई थी। ये क्या भैया, 2 महीने बाद आपने कॉल किया और बस 2 मिनट के लिए। माँ ने बताया आपकी नई नौकरी और नए घर के बारे में, मुबारक हो। पर माँ ने ये भी बताया कि आप इस साल भी रक्षाबंधन पर नहीं आने वाले। बहुत बुरा लगा। क्या भैया, आपसे कितनी सारी बातें करनी थी, इसीलिए सोचा कि आपको एक खत ही लिख दूं। माँ ने कहा होगा कि बाबा बिल्कुल ठीक है। झूठ, कहाँ से ठीक होंगे? दवाई वो वक्त पे लेते नहीं हैं, खत्म हो जाए तो बताते नहीं हैं। ऊपर से छोटी छोटी बात की परेशानी लेकर बैठ जाते हैं। मेरी तो बिल्कुल नहीं सुनते, आप अगर बताओगे तो शायद सुन लेंगे। पता है, मेरी शादी की परेशानी तो सर पे लेकर रखी है। भैया, 1 हफ्ते पहले एक रिश्ता आया था। लड़का चौकीदार है, शहर में रहता है, नाइट ड्यूटी। भैया, आपको तो पता है मुझे गांव कितना पसंद है और रात को अकेले रहने से डर लगता है, लेकिन फिर भी मैंने हाँ कर दी। माँ बाबा की परेशानी जो दूर करनी थी। पर भैया, लड़के वालों की तरफ से इनकार आया। उन्हें हमारी आर्थिक हालत से आपत्ति है। शायद किसी ने आपको बताया नहीं होगा कि बाबा ने जमीन गिरवी रख दी है, माँ जेवर बेच आती है। याद है माँ के वो 4 कंगन जिनके साथ खेलने के लिए हम झगड़ा करते थे? उनमें से अब एक भी नहीं बचा। मैं तो कहती हूँ माँ को जेवर ना बेचे, मेरी तो कोई सुनता नहीं है। आप कह दोगे तो शायद सुन ले, इसीलिए सोचा आपको खत में लिख दूं। भैया, कभी कभी लगता है काश मेरी भी आपके जैसे एक अच्छी नौकरी होती, तो मैं बाबा के लिए अच्छे अच्छे डॉक्टर ले आती, फल ले आती, माँ के लिए नई साड़ी लाती, घर की मरम्मत कराती, और अगर किसी दूसरे शहर जाकर काम करना भी पड़ता ना, हर दूसरे तीसरे दिन उन्हें कॉल जरूर करती। क्योंकि भैया, मैं देखती हूँ ना, आप 5 महीने में एक बार कॉल करते हो और 5 मिनट बात करते हो, और खुशी उनके चेहरे पे 5 दिनों तक झलकती है। भैया, मैं आपकी तकरार नहीं कर रही, आपकी क्या गलती, आप तो ये सब घर के हालात जानते ही नहीं। माँ आपको बताती नहीं, बाबा बताने देते नहीं, और मैं बस ये सारी बातें खत में लिख कर भेजने के बारे में सोच सकती हूँ। क्योंकि भैया, काश जब मैं दूसरी कक्षा में थी तो मेरा स्कूल छिड़वा ना दिया होता। भैया, मेरी तभी किसी ने सुनी नहीं, आप कहते तो वो शायद सुन लेते, और तब मैं इस कोरे कागज पर ये सारी बातें लिखकर आपको बता पाती। इस बार भी खाली लिफाफे में बस राखी भिजवा रही हूं। पता पोस्टमैन चाचा लिख देंगे। आपकी अनपढ़ बहन छोटी। So the story that I wrote and which has now come on a stage and that I'm sharing, it took seed from a very small thought. I was traveling and I met this girl who really wanted to write. And yesterday, I saw a video shared by one of our panelists and I was speechless. This is something I wrote 6 years back, and this is something that I saw yesterday, and you are also going to be speechless after you watch it.
शर्मा जी, शर्मा जी,
अरे आ रहे हैं भाई।
नमस्ते, खत आपके लिए।
मेरे लिए?
जी, ये लीजिए। नमस्ते। ये खत मैं आपको इसलिए लिख रहा हूं क्योंकि आज जो दिक्कत आपको है वही कुछ साल पहले मुझे भी हुआ करती थी। मारी छोरी और उसके सपने की। तो ध्यान से सुनिए और जो मैं कहता हूं वही कीजिए। आपकी छोरी का सपना एक सपना ही रहने दीजिए। वो चाहे कितनी भी जिद करे उसकी एक न सुनना। छो क्यों रहे हो? मैं सच ही कह रहा हूं, क्योंकि मान लो आपने एक बार उसकी सुन ली, फिर तो सब बदल ही जाना है ना। पहले तो वो आपकी एक ना सुनेगी, फिजूल खर्चा करेगी, आपको जबरदस्ती अपने पुराने कपड़ों से दूर करेगी, फिर एक करारा नया पोशाक दिलावेगी, वो भी हर 2 महीने में। वो भूल जावेगी कि आपका घर आपका है, वो पराया धन है। बिना पूछे आपके घर की मरम्मत करवा देगी। और तो और आप चाहे जितना मना करो, आपके छोटे से छोटे जुकाम के लिए भी आपको बड़े से बड़े अस्पताल ले जावेगी। शादी में भी दिक्कत आवेगी। इतने सारे रिश्ते जो आवेंगे, आप बौखला जावेंगे। इतनी मेहनत से जो आपने नाम कमाया है, उसका क्या फायदा? बाहर निकले तो आप उसके पिता के नाम से ही जाने जावेंगे, जैसे लोग अब मुझे जानने लगे हैं। छोरी का सपना कुचलने की हिम्मत न हुई मारे से। उम्मीद करता हूं ये पढ़ने के बाद आपकी भी ना होवेगी। आपका शुभ चिंतक, साक्षी मलिक का बापू।
आप भी अपनी बेटी को पढ़ाएं, लिखाएं और लिखने दें उसे आपकी और अपनी नई किस्मत। क्योंकि लड़की पढ़ेगी, आगे बढ़ेगी, तो सिर्फ उसकी नहीं, आपकी भी शान बढ़ेगी।
So actually, this was unplanned. First of all, it's very nice to be here. My name is Saswati, and I'm from Breakthrough. This was unplanned, as I said, so I had no idea that Mehak had told me that she's going to perform a story, and this is the first time I heard the story. And it was a fantastic coincidence, and not more than a coincidence, as to how stories overlap across, in an ecosystem where when we created this film, which was called Ek Pita Ka Khat, in collaboration with Sakshi Malik's father, Sukhbir Singh, we had an audience we wanted to speak to, and that audience was, parents, fathers, the stakeholders of one of their, children. And we wanted to, flip the narrative, as we say. The narrative is that, ladke aage le jayenge, or the son is the shan of the family. And he wanted to flip the narrative back to the daughters. And that was the purpose of this film. And it was wonderful, hearing from the daughter's side also, and connecting it with our film. So this was just a small example of how we, communicate to our audiences. I'm going to show another smaller, like a quick little video after this, which will be on a completely different track. It's a trailer for a show that we have called Fursat Mein Serious Baatein, which is centered around something which is very dear to Breakthrough. So Breakthrough has always believed in the power of media, of pop culture and storytelling. And for those of you who are acquainted with our work, like such as Man Ki Manjeere or the Bell Bajao campaign, we have spent like many years, like over 2 decades, creating stories in-house and talking to our communities and the ecosystem that we work in. But we spend a lot of time working with young people, and we realized over the years that in order to reach young people, we need to talk in their language and go to the communities and the places and the culture that that they are a part of, and that's popular culture. And what is the biggest popular culture machine in India, if not the world, other than Bollywood. So, Fursat Mein Serious Baatein is a digital interview series by Breakthrough, where we talk to some of the greatest storytellers in India, the writers, the actors, lyricists, filmmakers, etc. So about why they make stories and how we can create more gender progressive content and put it out into the ecosystem. I think we can show them the video.
मेल और फीमेल एक्टर्स में भारी एज गैप होना मूवीज में अनफॉर्चुनेटली बड़ी कॉमन बात है। कियारा आडवाणी 55 साल के अक्षय कुमार से 25 साल छोटी, रघुप्रीत सिंह 23 इयर्स, सलमान खान was 27 when दिशा पटानी was born, शाहरुख खान is 23 years older than अनुष्का। मींस ये तो फिर रीसेंट एग्जांपल्स हैं और हिस्ट्री में चले गए तो रात हो जाएगी। टॉम क्रूज के को-स्टार्स पे अलग निबंध लिखना पड़ेगा।
उठा ले रे देवा, उठा ले रे पापा।
And you know, it got me thinking, रियल लाइफ में भी तो होता है ऐसे एज गैप कपल्स में, तो why is it that it irks us so much when we see it on the screen? आंसर भी फटाक से आ गया, sexism. Let me explain. जितना लंबा एज गैप means उतनी ज्यादा अलग-अलग फीमेल को-स्टार्स के साथ सेम मेल एक्टर ने फिल्में करी, मीनिंग हीरो का करियर चले जा रहा है, पेट्रोल खत्म ही नहीं होता। And women, after a certain age are told, hey, you're not sexy enough to be seen as an object of desire for a 50-year-old.
कहते हैं बस कहते हैं।
कहानियां लिखते भी ऐसे कि हीरो होते हैं प्रॉब्लम सॉल्वर एंड सुंदर डेकोरेशन हीरोइन हु इज आल्सो द परफेक्ट एज टू बेयर हिज चाइल्ड। तो रखवाला चाहे कैसे भी दिखे, हमने तो साइकी में हार्डवायर कर दिया ना कि हीरो के बिना दुनिया रुक जाएगी। और आप सोचो, एसेंशियली द ओल्डर मेल इज डिक्लेयरिंग मेरे अकेले के दम पे नहीं चलेगी, वी नीड टू ब्रिंग इन फ्रेश यंग फेसेस। पर मजाल है जब माधुरी रेखा सुष्मिता के साथ दिख जाए दोबारा। टॉप गन में जेनिफर कॉनेली वैसे आ गई है एंड सीना तमान has beaten everyone with her Insta game। यानी हो गया है टाइम अब to flip the narrative।
Just to quickly add one thing. So this was it's not really look at Fursat, but this was a look at our host of our new season of Fursat, Sucharita. Many of you may know her as what we like to call the internet's favorite film critic. And Sucharita is the host of Fursat Mein Serious Baatein. If you want to check it out, please go to YouTube and look up Fursat. But the kind of content that Sucharita is talking about, where we are putting out stuff on Instagram, we are talking about films, and we are talking about it in fun, trendy fashions to try and reach young people. This is an example of how, over the years, Breakthrough is trying to reach young people through social media and through popular culture like Bollywood.
Thank you, Saswati. So rather than starting with context, we thought we'll maybe start with a few examples of what New Age storytelling looks like. As of 2024, we have about 800 million internet users with 600 million active on social media in India and spending about 2.5 hours per day on platforms like WhatsApp, Instagram, and YouTube. So, when you look at these numbers, then these platforms are more than just tools for connection. They become very powerful engines for influence and storytelling. But then how do you cut through in these spaces which are saturated with content? How do we use these new age platforms to really reach and empower underserved communities? And I think more than anything, how do we inspire action rather than just get attention for fleeting moments? So to answer some of this, we've got a fantastic, very diverse panel here, and let's dive straight into it. So let's start with you, Mehak. How do you see these new age digital platforms reshaping the way we communicate social impact stories? What makes them uniquely powerful compared to traditional media?
I think it's the reach that we can say, the easy reach that is possible through these new age platforms. It's just become something that you can literally sit at home and you can give out your message without needing a team to that effect. Whereas the traditional platforms that were there, it required a lot of process. You had to go through a lot of layers to make a written piece that you have written and really felt about. If you have to see it published somewhere, it took a lot of process. But today, if I have a seed, that's how I started. I felt strongly for something. A story came on my paper. I had social media. I put it out. And it reached places. And it's been a journey of 8 years. And today I think I am so driven by that same passion that was there 8 years back, but the reach has increased just because of the new age medium that we have.
Okay, and Shalini, given the new world order, what advice would you have for organizations wanting to leverage mainstream publications more effectively?
Right. So I also think that with these many platforms that are there now, these lines between mainstream and traditional and new age, they're really blurring. I don't think, and also we've lived with what we're calling new age has been around for a whole generation, almost a complete generation now. So I don't really, I think those lines are blurred. And what we call mainstream is also, these are also leveraging new age platforms. So the story you see in a form of text, whether it's on a website or in print media, it's also there on social media. The same organizations are also putting it out there. So I think everyone's, that multiplicity of voices is really what we're seeing now. But if you really want to be, so you can actually tell your own story now. You aren't as dependent anymore on only certain channels or certain streams. But if you do want to still be out there with an organized media organization that's been around for far longer, I think when you make your approach, have a very clear idea of what you want to say, who you want to reach, and what you want that impact to be. When you answer those 3 questions before you even decide to approach any organization, then you will only make your pitch to a place where those 3 answers come to you, right? Don't like don't send every media house out there your pitch. I think you should, and this would be true whether you are putting out your own story for yourself on social media or whether you're putting it out through a media organization. These 3 questions are the basic things you should answer before you embark on any kind of or put together any kind of communication strategy for yourself. So that's one effective way of doing it. So look at distribution later. So whether you're getting it out through mainstream media or on social media or on WhatsApp broadcast, whatever you're doing is your distribution. But unless you have your basic strategy of what you want to say, who you want to reach, and what impact you want that to have. By impact, I mean, are you looking at it because you're hoping to get funds through it? You just want everyone to know about the work you're doing? Whatever it is, you want more beneficiaries reaching out to you. You need to know what impact you want when you're going forward with your communication. So if you get that right, then no matter what medium you're distributing it through, you'll be effective, I think, and have reach.
So Devanshi, when we were speaking about this earlier, we saw that there were lots of similarities also in the way in which IDR would approach a story. Yeah. So where the overlap is clearly evident, where is the difference?
Between us and a platform like Mint?
Yes.
I think, so I'm going to say one thing, which is that, IDR also pitches our articles to platforms like Mint and The Wire and Times of India, because I think knowledge is knowledge and a good story is a good story. I think the difference is that we publish content that is written by people who've been working in the social impact space, primarily for other people in this space as well. So we do put out content like, how do you strengthen your monitoring and evaluation processes? How do you scale with the government? What does good communications look like? Why should you really not make a podcast? And that's things that are very, very relevant to our audience, but not necessarily to Mint's audience. And I think to reiterate what everybody else in the panel has been saying, I do believe that everybody who works in the sector is already a very good communicator. And I would say that because everyone who works here has deep audience understanding. You set up programs, you are running programs. You would never show up in a city or a town or a village and say, I'm just going to do this because I think it's a good idea. You're going to go there and figure out what the people want, what people need. And the gap that's there is you're not doing the same thing when you think about communications. You're not thinking about your audience, you're not thinking about why you're talking to them or what that story is. And a little bit of thinking about who you hope to read your story will tell you whether you should pitch to IDR or you should pitch to Mint or you should pitch to The Wire or, actually put it out on your own platform and not pitch to anybody at all. So I think the difference is our audiences and therefore slight difference in the content that goes out.
That's really important because we work with a large number of clients where the first question is always, who is your audience? Yeah. Before you come to us and say, I want to be in this paper, I think that the question we want to ask them is, but who is your audience?
Yeah.
And where do they hang out?
Just to add to that, even when we take in pictures from our own reporters or we decide to do a story, we ourselves are saying, who is going to read this? So if you're going to pitch to us, yes, that is something you should also think of. Yeah.
Okay. Saswati, social media algorithms are incentivized to prioritize entertainment over education. So how can organizations get really serious messages across in an impactful way?
There's a lot of answers for this. One of the answers which I think everybody, as Devanshi said, I fully agree, everybody here is a great communicator. And I think one of the roadblocks that we always hate is, oh, we have so much to say, and they're all really long sentences, which involve a lot of very big words. And what we essentially end up doing is talking to ourselves. There's no need for the messaging to be drawn. Platforms prioritize entertainment also because they understand their audiences. So, for example, because I work on social media, and we are constantly, I wouldn't say in a fight, but we are constantly trying to understand the Instagram, at Breakthrough especially, the Instagram algorithm. How can we get our admittingly difficult messaging around, say, early marriage, or dropouts, or adolescent empowerment, aspirational young people content? How can we get that out there without saying a lot of words? And the reality is that I fully concur with what Shalini said about knowing your audience and knowing what is it that your audience likes to consume, for the lack of a better word, and to make that. So, for example, if your audience likes to consume reels, then make reels. Find a way, so be creative, find a way to turn, if you have a difficult message to, which you are like, oh, this is so long. That's where the creative thinking comes in. We have to find a way to go to where the audience we're looking for is. Like the video that we showed was like a great example of that, of the first one that is, because both of the videos are talking to two completely disparate audiences. One of them was talking to parents, and specifically parents in rural and peri-urban areas. And one of them was talking to young people who specifically use Instagram a lot, English speaking. We can't flip them because they're speaking to different audiences. But one can't argue that they aren't fun. The way is that we don't have to be entertaining. We just have to be entertaining enough that the message gets across.
Nice. Devanshi, what lessons can we learn from your experiments and your experience of using humor with IDR?
So I think the first one would be just to take a risk. Before we started IDR, we said we're going to put out one humor piece a week, and we just said that, and everybody came and said, how are you going to create this content? Who's going to consume humor? You're supposed to be a serious platform, a place where people come to learn. What is the value that cartoons are adding? And we had done deep audience profiling exercises before we started, and we said, people are looking for a place to laugh, and they're looking for a way to laugh at themselves. So one is, where is that line that you're drawing? We will never make fun of nonprofits. Through our humor, we will make a lot of fun of funders. Our funders know this, and we would never make fun of somebody who is working at a grassroots, at a field level, but we poke a lot of fun at consultants, at people who do our job of just sitting at home and writing. And it's, it's self-reflective, and I think that works, because the humor is not in bad taste. It's not actually, it's not putting anybody down. It's just increasingly over the last year, just stating what the state of affairs is, and sometimes all you can do is laugh at that. The other thing that I would say is, constantly evolving, right? So initially our humor pieces were pieces, they were articles. And they were, 500 words, 600 words. And we began to realize that people would only read those articles if they were broken up into slides on Instagram, and that's where they were consuming them. And then we said, okay, can we take those slides and just do an illustration? Like, why are we writing 500 words when somebody wants 5 seconds of content, or something that they can press share and send it on? So I think as we've gotten deeper understandings of our audiences, that's changed. We're doing more videos now because people want reels. We keep adapting. So I would say, just if you have an idea, just take a shot, give it a chance. And the second is, once you've given it a chance, don't just put it out there and forget about it. see how people are responding to it, see what people are saying, see the reactions that you're getting, and evolve based on that. We couldn't keep, even our humor section, which I would say arguably might be our most popular one, we can't keep it static. We have to keep changing.
I think consistency, just to clear up from there, consistency is key to whatever channel you decide to leverage or to use to get your message out there. It's about doing it regularly. So it's really that.
After that, I would like to add that yes, consistency, absolutely. The algorithm actually has space for everything.
Yeah.
Like you are competing with somebody who is just brushing their teeth every morning and giving their morning routine, with somebody just winking, and that's the kind of competition you are having, and you are giving serious messages, and everything is there. There is space for everything, but consistency. Another thing is keep experimenting, see what's working. It's like we always feel कि ये मैं करती हूँ, ये मुझे अच्छा लगता है, और ये ऐसे ही मुझे डालना है. We are not keeping it open and flexible कि अगर हमारी audience को मैं अलग तरीके से अगर बता दूँ तो हो सकता है कि उन तक ये बात जल्दी पहुँचे. To understand the science behind social media consumption, you know, एक सेकेंड से ज़्यादा अगर आप उनको होल्ड नहीं कर पाए, वो आगे बढ़ चुके हैं already. So your first word, what you're saying, how is it gripping? But only experiment till the time you have figured your formula. And after that, just stick to it. You figured your brand, you figured your style, and then just stick to it and then consistently keep giving. You will get your audience and be happy with that.
And the thing with the algorithm is once you have your audience, I'm sure you've all seen this, that if you keep searching for something or you keep watching something, it serves you more of that, right? So everyone keeps saying, oh, I only see airport looks. I never see airport looks on my feed. But I keep getting dog videos on my feed, right? So if you have an audience which likes learning more about whatever your theme or your cause or whatever your message is, then your algorithm will start serving that fixed audience that your message is over and over. So consistency and quantity is required because it won't serve the same video twice or whatever it is, message twice. So if you decide to start making reels, you have to have a large number because once they catch on, you have to keep feeding it. So that's it.
Sorry, I'm just going to eat into this while we keep talking about algorithms.
Yeah.
Just to say that I don't actually think the algorithm prioritizes
Absolutely agree with you. Yeah.
I think it just prioritizes
what you want.
Yeah, it's just clicks and what you're searching for. And so we see a lot of nonprofits who come to us and they say, I keep talking about my program. And the thing is, that's nice, but is the Instagram audience the right audience for you to be talking about your program, or should you be talking about what you've learned, your sector, what people are saying? Because people are there to consume content, and there's only so much content that they're going to consume that says, I do this.
Maybe a larger message rather than just I do this. So, so think about that also.
So and just to one more step into that, which is that absolutely agree on the entertainment part, especially because one of the saddest things that I figured out running an organization page is that nobody is in it for the page. Nobody's coming to breakfast page to be like, oh man, breakthrough, you guys are so great. But the point is that because the content stands by itself, and it is not clear, and it's it is a thing by itself, which is why we can't keep talking about ourselves. The way we found by doing focus group discussions and breakthrough, etc., is that people don't go looking; the content comes to them. Which means that everything has to stand for itself and has to be a whole story by itself.
But good content is not easy. And good social media is not easy either. So, when we think about SPOs and their challenges, how do they use these new age formats, or maybe, like we said, maybe they're not so new age anymore, but how can they leverage these platforms to reach more marginalized and underserved audiences more effectively?
So actually, I think it is in fact very easy to reach because it's very visual. So everybody has a phone. Wherever you go, everybody is consuming Instagram, WhatsApp, especially the videos that go viral on WhatsApp. आप किसी भी भाषा में भेज दो, पढ़ने की ज़रूरत नहीं है, सब तक पहुँच जाते हैं. The thing is, I would say, you leverage the medium, but your ways are still traditional if you think about it. Like I am using oral storytelling, which was like something that is the first way of communication or spreading a news, right? So your ways are still traditional. Where when we talk about films, ad films, newspapers, it's all traditional. It's just the way it is reaching has changed. You stay traditional in your ways, mix, experiment, innovate, and just keep putting it out. Don't get demotivated. You know what happens is when we think, सोशल मीडिया तो सिर्फ एंटरटेनमेंट देखता है या सोशल मीडिया मुश्किल है या अच्छा कंटेंट, ये सब हम जब सोचते हैं हम डिमोटिवेट हो जाते हैं. आपको जो अच्छा लग रहा है आप बनाएं, आप डालें. Let the media do its work.
I've got a follow-up question for you. How can organizations use influencers more authentically to communicate a message without really diluting the integrity of what they're trying to do?
It's like a marriage. There has to be compatibility. The problem is when a brand picks up an influencer where their core values only don't match. Like आप Instagram पे उसका अगर पेज देख रहे हो उस influencer का, if they are giving the message that very much aligns with what you are trying to say or the audience that you want to reach, yeah, the audience is the same, then that's the influencer you choose. Influencer now is like, where there are the eyes is where you put your ad. Like it's a hoarding कि यहाँ पे पता है कि यहाँ पे सबसे ज़्यादा लोग पास होते हैं यहाँ से, तो मैं अपनी hoarding यहाँ पे लगा दूँगा. An influencer becomes that hoarding for you, right? So you find the influencer जहाँ पे आपकी audience already जा रही है, उसे चुनो, उससे बोलो कि आपके alignment में रहकर content करे, तो सब ठीक है. पर आप अगर सिर्फ views पे जा रहे हैं कि because he has 8 million views, it doesn't matter what they are otherwise talking about, now I will pay them enough to speak about what I am giving, inauthenticity will be a failure.
So I'm also going to slightly contrary view to that, is that I don't necessarily think, unless if you have tons of money, great, spend it on an influencer, but I don't think you need to do that. I honestly think that you, again, each of the people in your organizations can become influencers. They are the most authentic people to tell your own stories. A field worker, anybody can actually help. You can help them make those videos and put them out there. Your message would be so much more authentic, so much more real. And I think it would be, and then you don't get stuck with saying, I've paid the influencer this much, I've got 5 videos, that's all, right? You have an endless source. If you train and empower your own teams to become those authentic voices, then you have an endless supply of whatever form of content, whether it's text, audio, video, whatever it is. So I think that's the better way to create your own influencers in a sense.
I 100% agree with this. I 100%. It's like, अगर करना है तो वैसे करो, but this is always the most beautiful go when the voices in your company are actually speaking about.
Quickly moving on to another thing, you can come in, Devanshi, but AI, game changer or buzzword?
We have all very different
Let's go.
Different opinions on this. So there are many downsides to it, but for the purpose of what we're discussing here, which is communication for particular kinds of organizations, I don't think it's a buzzword. I feel it's here to stay, and it's not somewhere in the far future. It's already part of our lives. And if it's going to make your life easier, for instance, if you have to agonize over writing a report, condensing your annual report into, say, 500 words for some grant or something, why not use it, right? Be careful about how you use it, be practical about how you use it, check it over for accuracy, for all that. But yeah, why not use it as and when it evolves? Keep learning with it, right? Why do you want to say this is something we should not touch? So that's my take on it.
But you need a deeply contrarian view.
We have many. We had a long argument about this.
So we actually had a discussion about this previously. So I'm looking at it, like as quite correctly said, from a communications perspective, and because I breakthrough works in the gender space, from a gender perspective, a gender communications perspective. One of them is from a gender communications perspective. I, personally speaking, and also I think looking at the space also, because I work around and also look at what we call TFGBV, which is tech-facilitated gender-based violence, and AI is a huge, a problem factor in that. So, just stepping outside the communication space for 1 second, because it has been such a roadblock for us in terms of how what we talk about GBV, etc. online. So in that sense, no for AI for me.
From a communications perspective, actually, I was thinking about what you were also saying, Shalini, because I think I'm 50-50 on it. On one hand, I think that we have a lot of communicating to do, anything which cuts the time down, and I think ChatGPT and other platforms like that are developing from already pre-existing programs which already exist. I think it's a buzzword in the sense that everybody's leaping about it right now, but Grammarly has existed. Other such similar things have existed. In that sense, I just think that it's a little bit of a market thing. From a personal communications perspective, I prefer not to use it for this simple reason, which is me and me only, is that I'm learning to be a communicator. And I feel like if I'm letting myself use ChatGPT to do something that I would prefer to train myself on, that's not me doing a communications job.
I had somebody equate it to a calculator for me the other day and said, why am I continuing to try and do math problems in my head if somebody can do this for me in a second? There's many problems with AI, but IDR has just launched our own AI platform, so obviously I am more on Shalini's side of things, which is to
I'm
say,
fully here to be the bad guy on this.
which is to say that it's here to stay, and I think
I agree with that, yeah.
if we're going to spend a lot of effort fighting it, we could spend that effort thinking about how to be safe with it, what are guidelines, because we need them. We need guidelines on safety, on fact checking, on just how do you build like ownership and intentionality in a platform, and where we just launched ours, we're still learning how to do it. But I think there's a lot of scope globally and within India for that.
Okay, we're going to take a pause now and open up the questions to the floor. You've got a fantastic representation of different publications and portals and platforms here. Does anybody have a question?
My name is Aditya. I just have a question to the panel. This is regarding when it comes to these new age media forums or channels, it's tremendous potential to reach people, but what about the sections I'm referring to the digital divide, what are those sections who don't have access to those mediums? I mean, and when your goal as an organization is to reach them, then how do you square the circle? I think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, sure.
It's okay. I can answer it from Breakthrough's perspective, because I fully get with the digital divide, and especially when talking about internet penetration across quite a lot of India, because there's a gender divide, especially because in a family they might have a smartphone, but the smartphone is with the father or the brother. Rarely does it reach the woman of the family. So one of the methods that we're thinking about is when we talk about, for example, communication and even violence online, we talk about access. And we know that a lot of women, for example, don't have access. One of the things that we do, for example, is that there was a question that Girish had asked earlier about, like reaching marginalized people on the internet, etc. Is that one of the things I wanted to flip was also look at platform holders, such as Meta, X, etc. We do to a limited degree work with platform holders and they are receptive to getting feedback on this, on how truly accessible their platforms are in terms of language, in terms of usage, in terms of penetration. That is one of the things that we can do, which is that it's not a black box that you're holding in your hand. There is an organization at the other end which is responsible for the platforms, and they have some degree of accountability for how it is run. That's, I think, one of the ways that we can look at it.
I have a fully contrary point, which is don't do it. Like, there's so much donor pressure, there's so much pressure generally to be on every single platform and to do every single thing. And if you can't see value in, like, if you know that your audience is not going to be on Instagram, the amount of time, money, energy that's going to go in creating your Instagram content, you have to value that versus creating content and doing communications in a way that can reach your audience. And I don't know what that is, but maybe it is. Maybe you are making the videos, but you're sitting down and you're showing them together instead of putting them up on a platform. That's one. The other is, I mean, I would say, and I'm completely biased because IDR exists to platform other stories, but if you want to create a platform where people from the community that you work with can tell their own stories, then that's where you can bring in social. And say, like, you can be in charge of telling your own stories, and we can show you how to use this to be able to do that. But nonprofits are strapped for every kind of resource, and communications is like a black hole. Like, you're trying to do everything, it's never enough, and there's usually one comms person, like trying to do all of it. And if this is not the right one for you, then that's not where your money should go.
So it just goes back to what we originally said, which is I think there's always confusion between type of content and then distribution of content, right? So you figure out the type and you also figure out what distribution channel, platform, whatever works for you. So it might just be that you want to do community radio. That's still a platform, right? So distribution channels, first you think about what you want to say, who you want to reach, and what impact you want it to have, right? Then you think about what is the best way for me to get it out there. That's the basis of any communication strategy. You split these two things up, you figure it out, and then you start making content. You don't just say, we need to be out there and we need to start doing everything. So figure out what works for you based on your intent and your audience, and then figure out how you want to reach them. That's your distribution channel.
We can take one more quick question. Yes.
The fallout of a good communication strategy could also mean greenwashing, poverty porn. So do you guys do some sort of self-regulation to say that let's not make everything great and, just because the donors, want it, or just because organizations need funding. So do you put some moral compass or some regulation, self-regulation or some self-policing when you take up projects?
We have a lot. We have guidelines on what kind of photographs, what kind of language, what kind of all of them to ensure that. Sorry, I misunderstood the question.
I meant more as putting out the real truth versus putting out a great comms video and a film where actually the work that is being done on the ground isn't actually reflective of that.
So we, the people who write for us are people who are doing the work on the ground. We don't write on behalf of, mostly we don't write on behalf of anybody. So people tell their own stories. So our guidelines are more like, how do you not talk too much about your work and more about your learning or your challenges. The reason I don't think IDEA will ever be a mainstream platform is because we also refuse to do any kind of catchy headlines. Our humor is as catchy as it gets. But like catchy headlines or any kind of like cool imagery, it's very much what is the story, who is the person telling the story, and how do we do justice by that. And to make sure that we do that, we have a lot of internal mechanisms of who's holding us accountable, what are the structures that we're accountable to. So we have built that in, but I think everybody here will have a different version of an answer.
I can quickly from my perspective here, which is that we do, like for example, I know exactly what you mean in terms of like poverty porn and putting a certain kind of story out to get a certain reaction. And we do have, like there are, within our communication scenes, etc., there are things that we do not do. For example, we do not, like speaking for myself, we don't put out any picture, any story which would violate the dignity of the, the person at the center of the story. For example, because we have real life authentic stories. One of the things that we like focus on is authenticity, because people will spot inauthentic content like this. You can, like on the internet, we've realized one thing: no matter what you're putting out, there has to be a heart to the content, and it has to be a real story. But it has to be put out in such a way that we don't twist what is being told to appeal to the audience. The audience is getting the truth, and they're getting the truth which maintains the dignity of the story being told.
Like the video you showed.
Yeah.
It was done in partnership with the person whose actual story was, which is, I think,
Yeah, so don't lie, your audience will always know. They can always tell. I mean, they know they're not they're not mindless consumers, really, they're not.
Okay, very quickly, we're on a timer, so we've got the last 3 minutes. So top tip from each of you, two social purpose organizations that they can take back to work tomorrow and start using that would help them reach and engage audiences more effectively.
I bet you can ask many tips. So I was hoping that you guys would say some and then I'll choose.
Okay, go.
No, I'm not going to do many. I'm just going to eliminate based on what you say.
I do by one. It's like how people say location. I'll say audience.
That was perfect.
That's a great point. I would go back to telling you, know what you want to put out there, then choose your channel. Don't just say, we have to communicate, right? There is organization and planning to it. I just told you, figure out type versus distribution, work that out, and go ahead, be consistent with it. And also have fun with it. It's great to tell stories. It's what I've done for most of my life, and I love it. So it's a fabulous thing if you're starting on it, if you're in the middle of it, whatever it is. Have fun with it as well. Yeah.
I would say that when you choose a story to tell, understand that you don't have to sympathize with that person's story. You have to empathize a lot. You have to find that one thread that connects you with their story. Because when you tell that story with a connection from your heart, it is going to be authentic. You will find a channel. You will do everything that is required for it to reach the right places. I have seen a lot of plans are made. Once the plan is made, once the approvals have come, once the funds have come, then the execution is half-hearted. The end product is, like you said, there is a small after reel which is literally a pouty pond, which is showed to next funders. But the actual process that happened, the women who were involved, the men who were involved, were part of that program. I don't know what they took back, right? So you don't take back, you give them, but have that intention very correct of what you want to give.
Can I ask one thing? Sorry. Don't leave this only to your comms person, okay? Like your entire organization can actually be communicators. Sorry.
No, it's a very similar. I'm going to reiterate what I said, which is I'm going to say do less. You can't look at an idea, a breakthrough, or a mint. Like comms is a huge part of what we do. It's 90% of what IDR does. All our money goes here. So if you are trying to do on a limited budget with a limited team, the same amount of work that a platform that is built only to do communications is trying to do, like you're setting yourself up for failure. It is much better to only be on Instagram and to be posting every day than to try and be on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and like Twitter and you're posting once a week, on each of those. So I think if you marry what we've said, which is essentially know what you're trying to say, who you're trying to say it to, you know what to prioritize also. Prioritize, do less, and whatever you're doing less, do it in a way that you can do justice to what you're doing.
I'm going to say exactly what Devanshi just said. Know your audience, know how they consume content, keep it authentic, keep it real, and do less. Okay, let's give this panel a big round of applause. And hand over to Lopani.
Thank you, Girish, and thank you, speakers. I think this was the best masterclass we could have had on this sort of very interesting and very topical theme and domain. Thank you so much to all of you. May I request for a photograph with all the panelists, please? And while the photograph happens, may I invite my colleague Soumya to please come onto the stage and talk a little about a communication effort that we've done recently as part of our Center of Excellence, and tell us a little more about it.
So just taking off from the discussion that we just had, where we talked about the importance of storytelling in the sector, where we talked about why it's important to reach your audience, to experiment, to innovate, to also center your community, and inspire people. We at ISDM, and particularly at the Center for Data Science and Social Impact, which is what I'm representing today, has tried to do. We've created this graphic novel. I think you'll be able to see it on the screen as well. But the idea is that one of the things that we kept encountering in our work was that data as a concept is very esoteric. It's often very heavy. It's not something that a lot of people understand. They're intimidated by it. But a lot of organizations in the social sector do use data, and we wanted more of them to use data and make more evidence-based decisions. To help them do that, we thought the best way to do so would be to present their stories of how they're using data in a simple, accessible, engaging, and inspiring format that others can learn from and talk about, and figure out how to talk about their own stories while also using data in their work. So limited copies of this are available at the CDSSI kiosk outside in the atrium. We'd love for you to come and pick it up. This is also available on our website as a flip book, and it leans into everything that the panel just talked about. So you already have a context for why we've done this and how it will work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Soumya, and thank you, panelists. We've really had a very insightful session. Thank you. We now transition into our evening plenary for DoDM 2024. We have put together a 5-minute survey to capture your thoughts on the sessions that you've attended today. Your DoDM app will send notification for the survey, and we will be sending emails to your email accounts to let you know about the survey link. Please do take it.